Welcome back to the Tactics of Trav YouTube channel, guys. So in this one, we're playing white, and black just moved b5. We got an endgame puzzle, so let's do material count first. Black has 5 pawns, I have 5, and we each have our king. So with b5, what I'm looking at is, let's start with the obvious first. What if a takes b5? A takes b5, a6 takes b5, maybe b4 to kill a tempo and control the c5 square. And then if black plays, say, king d5, we'd play king f4, I think that's what's key, is if in that line a takes b5, a6 takes b5, b4, and as soon as black plays king d5, because maybe they're thinking they're going to get the opposition, and with that, it's not always, well, so like what you've learned with opposition in games, guys, is like a lot of times if black takes this, they get the opposition with the 1 square between the kings. But if we take this L-shaped pattern, like how a knight moves, then that's sometimes a good thing in the end game when the kings face off with each other. So it's called shouldering. And so what we might try to do is circle around this way and take a position of like the L shape between us and the other king. And then if g5 check, we would take the opposition with f5. I don't think they would do that though. We would just take the pawn. But just going through some lines here. A takes b5, a6 takes b5, b4 to take this square away and control this. And we already control this square with this pawn. So if king d5, then we would go king f4. And I think the reason we don't want to push our pawn here, I mean, that would be bad, because if we push this pawn, black could push his pawn here, and then we can't control this pawn. Like we can't cover our pawn, which ends up on a5. So then black's king could just run this way and take out that pawn. In-game puzzles are tricky. One wrong move and you could lose the entire position. You could end up turning into a draw instead of a win. So we want to make sure we get this right. I'm calculating now, what if we just leave it alone? Like, what if we don't take on b5 and just leave it? Let's say I pushed g4 or something like that. Well, that would be a bad move because he's got g5, and that controls both these pawns. Because now this pawn could never move to h4 because this pawn could just take. So going with the obvious choice seems like the best so far, with a takes b5. A takes b5, a6 takes b5, b4 seems like a natural response. g4 would be terrible for the reason we just discussed. I also don't like pushing h4. That doesn't seem to make any sense either, because if h4, after we trade over here, black could just go h6, and then if we move g4, he would go g5, and that just looks like a drawn game. So that wouldn't do us any favors. And if in that line, if h4, h6, we wouldn't want to push like h5, because I think we're getting too far ahead, and then black could go f5, king f5. If g4 check, he's got king g5. It just looks uncertain. Doesn't look like anything promising. Whereas at the first line that just, struck me, seems to be the best so far. A takes b5, a6 takes b5, b4, king d5, king f4. Well, hold on a second. I keep assuming he's going to go d5, but that's a bad move. So let's start from the top. I think he could just go f5. Let's take a look at that. A takes b5, a6 takes b5, b4, king f5. So instead of here, king goes here. But now I wonder if g4 actually makes some sense, because now we hit the king with tempo. And if we do, and he goes king g5, then we win this pawn, because now he can come king e4, pick up this pawn, although he can come this way, pick up this pawn, and it's more of a race, because then, well, no, ours is much faster. Our race would be much easier, because after we win this pawn and go king c5, we're going to be able to promote this pawn all the way up the board to d8, whereas black is going to have to pick up this pawn, and he's going to have to take out my g4 pawn, and then he's going to push this pawn. So it's going to be too slow. This is why endgames are so tricky. You're trying to calculate them out. It's a lot of moves you got to calculate ahead. So we got 1, 1, 2, 2, 3, 3, 4, 4, 5, 5, 6, 6, 7, 7, 8, 8, 9, 9. I think we win. Now that's if he goes king g5, though. He may not go there. He may go back to e5. So starting from the top, because that's just one branch. A takes b5, a6 takes b5, b4, king f5, g4 check, king e5. What if he just comes back here? What I like if he comes back to e5 is pushing h4. Because now we have both pawns here, and his king's still on e5. These pawns are locked up here on b4 and b5. But this is much more aggressive, and we have a lot more traction here on the king side versus black. So now if he plays like h6, I wonder if we play g5, takes, king f5. No, that's bad. We'd lose this pawn. He plays a6, takes, king here, king g4, king f6, king h5, king g7. Still seems drawish. It's going to come down to like one move. One slight move that looks like it'd be okay, that would be a complete disaster. We got to make sure we get this right. I just had a thought. Like, we keep assuming that we're going to press b4, but what if that's the loss of the tempo? What if that's actually the losing move? What I mean is, from the top, if a4 takes b5, a6 takes b5, and instead of just pushing b4 to lock up the pawn structure and take away the square, which really doesn't mean that much at this point, what if we, instead of pushing b4, we go king to g4 and start the shouldering process right away with the knight move in between us? So if here, now we're trying to circle around, right? So if a6 or h6, let's say, maybe we want to play g3 because we got to take this square away if my king continues to go this way. Because if I don't want to go king h5, because then he gets in king f4, and then he gets this pawn here, and then this pawn's going to queen for black. So if king g4 in this line and h6, g3 to take out the square, and this square is covered by this pawn. So then if g5, then we got king h5, and that's winning. That's winning right there, because black can't cover this pawn anymore. If he goes g5 though, he may just go g6. g6 looks like it makes sense to keep my king from coming here, and it covers that square. But then I press h4. That might be the way, guys. I think it's going to be that. It's going to be a slow burn, but that's what makes Endgame so special and unique and difficult, is you have to get the slow burn correct or else you get burned. So a4 takes b5, a6 takes b5, king g4, h6, g3, g6, h4. That's what we're looking at. I like that. That looks pretty good so far. I'm going to go ahead and make that move, guys. I'm going to go ahead and take on b5 with that sequence. So let's count that out just so you know the line that we're looking at. a4 takes b5, a6 takes b5, that's 1. Then we got king to g4, and we're assuming h6, so that's 2. And then we need to play g3, in which we think black's going to respond with g6. That's 3. And then we're going to play h4. And then we're not really sure what black's going to do. If black goes king, say, e6, then we have king e4. And that's totally winning, and that would be the 4th move. But if he doesn't go there and he goes, say, here, we have king f4, which is the 4th move. If he goes king d6, we also go king e4 with the threat upon this pawn. So then he has to come here, and then we go king e5. That's good, guys. I'm going to go ahead and make that move. I like that line. Okay. Takes b5. See what the lead chess says. Yep, okay, he takes back, so we get the first move right so far. And this is where we calculated going king g4. Just make sure that's right. King G4. What if he goes King D5 to King G4? Then we go King F5. But then he gets in King B4. So we were originally looking at King G4, but I was thinking, what if he goes King D5? But if he goes King D5, then we go King F5. Then he goes King C5. Trying to get here to B4. Or he would go, so he's, okay. So King G4, King D5, King F5, King B4, King E4, oh, that's a mind square. We can't do that. I just learned about this in Dvorsky's Endgame manual. That'd be terrible. We go King E4. He doesn't take. He goes King C3. And then we can't take because this is covered. And then we got to move away. I suppose we could start pushing pawns, but then he can lock up the pawns too. So in response to here, in response to King B4, I go King E5. King C3. King E4. Or King G4, King D5, B4. That's where we put in B4 to keep him from getting this way, coming this way. But we got King G4 in. That's where I think we're sitting good. We got to get King G4 in now. The problem is we go B4, he goes King F5, and then that pretty much stunts out anything we can do to get into Black's backfield. Whereas if we go King G4 right away, and he tries to run this way, then we can go B4 there. So that's where we gotta get in B4. Else it gets really complicated. If I don't push B4 after he goes King D5, then he gets back here, and we do not want that because now our king is locked to defense of this D3 pawn, and then we're playing this game over here between our two pawns, and I think that just becomes a wash. So I think King G4, like we originally calculated, I just wanted to triple check that. All right, King G4 is what I'm going with. Yep, that's it, guys. Wow, 36 points. That took forever to do. So that brings me from 25-15 up to 25-51 on Lee Chess Puzzles. All right, guys, on to the next.